I never reported what happened that night, but it still follows me. My name is Daniel Marsh, and I have worked as a deputy coroner at the Billings County Morgue in Montana for 17 years. I have processed over 3,000 bodies in that time. Traffic accidents, natural causes, overdoses, hunting incidents. I have seen what death looks like in every form, and I have never questioned the finality of it. Not once, not until March 14th, 2023. The morgue sits on the edge of town, a flat-roofed concrete building surrounded by empty fields. At night, the nearest lights are 2 miles away. The quiet out there is absolute. No traffic, no voices, just wind and the hum of refrigeration units cycling on and off. I work the overnight shift 3 nights a week, alone except for the dead. It is steady work, predictable. I prepare bodies for autopsy, log intake forms, maintain the facility. I like the silence, or I did. That night, I logged in a 53-year-old male. Heart attack. Time of death was 3:47 p.m., confirmed at the hospital. By the time the transport van delivered him to me, it was almost 11. I unzipped the bag, did the preliminary visual check, photographed the body, then resealed the bag and wheeled him into the cooler. Drawer 7. Standard procedure. I locked the cooler door, updated the system, and returned to my desk to finish the intake paperwork. The cooler is soundproofed, thick steel door, insulated walls. You do not hear anything from inside once that door is shut. That is why, when I heard it, I froze. Breathing, slow, rhythmic, coming from the cooler, I sat perfectly still, pen halfway through a signature. The sound was faint, but unmistakable, in and out, steady, human. I waited, listening. It continued. 5 breaths, 10, then it stopped. I told myself it was the ventilation system. Air moving through ducts, old buildings make sounds. I returned to the paperwork, forcing my hand to move, but my chest felt tight. I kept glancing at the cooler door. 20 minutes passed. I heard it again. This time, I stood. The sound was louder now, deeper. I crossed the room slowly, my footsteps echoing on the tile. I pressed my ear to the cooler door. The cold metal stung my skin. I held my breath. There it was, breathing, deliberate, measured, coming from inside. I unlocked the door and pulled it open. Cold air spilled out, thick with the chemical smell of preservatives. The cooler was dim, lit only by a single overhead bulb. 18 drawers lined the walls. Drawer 7 was the only one occupied. I walked to it. The handle was ice cold. I hesitated, then pulled. The drawer slid open with a metallic scrape. The body bag was sealed. I had zipped it myself, but now, standing over it, I could see the fabric moving, slowly, rising, falling, as if something inside was breathing. My hands trembled as I reached for the zipper. I have opened thousands of body bags. I have never been afraid of what is inside until that moment. I pulled the zipper down. The man's face was gray and still. His eyes were closed, his mouth slightly open. There was no movement, no breath. I leaned closer, watching his chest. Nothing. But then I saw it, condensation, fresh droplets clinging to the inside of his rib cage, just beneath the skin. I had performed the initial examination, less than 4 hours ago. There had been no condensation. Lung tissue deflates after death. It does not produce moisture. I stepped back. The sound had stopped. The room was silent, except for the hum of the refrigeration unit. I stared at the body, my breath fogging in the cold air. Then I heard it again, not from the body, from behind me. I turned slowly. The other drawers were closed. The cooler was empty, except for me and drawer 7. But the sound was there, breathing, close, as if someone was standing just over my shoulder. I spun around. Nothing. The breathing continued, steady, rhythmic, coming from everywhere and nowhere. I backed toward the door, my eyes sweeping the room. The overhead bulb flickered. Once, twice. The breathing grew louder. I ran. I slammed the cooler door shut and locked it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the key. I stood in the hallway, gasping, listening. The sound was gone. The building was silent again. I did not go back inside the cooler that night. I sat at my desk, staring at the door, until my shift ended at 6 a.m. When the day staff arrived, I told them nothing. I filed the paperwork. I went home. The autopsy was performed 2 days later. The pathologist found nothing unusual. Cause of death, myocardial infarction, no anomalies, no condensation, no mention of anything out of the ordinary. But I know what I heard. I know what I saw. I still work at the morgue. I still take the overnight shift, but I do not go into the cooler alone anymore. And sometimes, late at night, when the building is quiet and the refrigeration units cycle off, I hear it again, breathing, slow, steady, waiting. Drawer 7 is empty now, but the sound remains. There's a room in this building we're never supposed to use alone. I know why. My name is Marcus Holloway, and I have worked as an autopsy technician at the Lucas County Coroner's Office in Toledo, Ohio, for 9 years. My job is to prepare examination rooms, assist pathologists during procedures, clean and maintain equipment, and ensure the facility runs smoothly. It is methodical work, precise. I have always appreciated the order of it, the predictability, but Examination Room C has never been predictable. The room is identical to the others. Stainless steel table, overhead surgical lights, ventilation system, scale, instrument trays. Everything standard, except the temperature. The table in room C reads 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Always. Exactly. Body temperature. We have replaced the refrigeration units 3 times. We have had engineers inspect the system, the wiring, the thermostats. Everything tests normal, but the table stays warm, not hot, not cold, exactly 98.6. I first noticed it 4 years ago during a routine cleaning. I placed my hand on the table surface and pulled back immediately. It felt like touching skin, living skin. I checked the thermostat. The room was set to 38 degrees, same as the others. I reported it to my supervisor. He dismissed it as a malfunction, said maintenance would handle it. They never did, because every time they checked, the equipment worked perfectly. The refrigeration ran. The temperature gauges read correctly, but the table stayed warm. We started avoiding Room C. Not officially. No one issued a memo. but when multiple examination rooms were available, we used the others first. Room C became the backup, the last option. I told myself it was just a temperature anomaly, a quirk in the system, nothing more. Then the hands started moving. It was a Tuesday in October 2021. We had a backlog. All three examination rooms were occupied. I was assisting Dr. Patel with a case in room C. The deceased was a 71-year-old female. Natural causes. We transferred her from the gurney to the table. I logged her weight, prepped the instruments, then stepped back while Dr. Patel began the external examination. That is when I noticed her left hand. It was warmer than the rest of her body. Noticeably warmer. I mentioned it to Dr. Patel. She checked the hand, frowned, and continued working. 15 minutes later, I glanced at the hand again. The fingers had curled inward, slightly, as if she were making a fist. I stared at it, my pulse quickening. Cadaveric spasm, I told myself. Muscle contraction. It happens. But this was different. The movement was slow, deliberate. I watched the fingers for a full minute. They did not move again. Dr. Patel finished the examination. We transferred the body back to cold storage. I cleaned the table, logged the case, and left the room. I did not mention the hand. I did not want to sound irrational, but I could not stop thinking about it. The next week, I reviewed the security footage. Every examination room has a camera mounted in the corner for documentation and legal purposes. I pulled the recording from that Tuesday, fast forwarded to our case, watched the entire procedure. At the 43-minute mark, the deceased's left hand moved, not a spasm, not a twitch. The fingers curled closed slowly, one at a time, over the course of 2 minutes. Then they stopped. The hand remained in a loose fist for the rest of the examination. I saved the footage, showed it to Dr. Patel. She studied it in silence, then told me to delete it, said it would raise questions we could not answer. She was right, but I kept a copy. Over the next 2 years, I monitored every case processed in Room C. 17 bodies, 14 of them, developed warmth in the left hand within an hour of being placed on the table. 11 showed finger movement on camera, always the left hand, always a slow curl inward. I started documenting everything, timestamps, temperature readings, photographs. I measured the table surface temperature daily. It never varied, 98.6 degrees, even when the room was empty for weeks. Last month, we had a Jane Doe, unidentified female, mid-30s, found in the Maumee River, suspected drowning. All other rooms were occupied, so I prepped Room C. I placed her onto the table, logged her weight, and began the standard intake procedures. Her left hand was already warm. I stared at it, my chest tightening. I had not even finished the paperwork yet. The warmth was spreading. I could see it, faint color returning to the fingertips. I reached out and touched her wrist. It pulsed. I jerked my hand back. My breath caught. I stood frozen, staring at her hand. The pulse came again, faint, slow, but unmistakable. Then her fingers moved, one by one. They curled inward, slowly, deliberately, until her hand formed a fist. I watched, unable to move, unable to breathe. The fist tightened, held, then relaxed. I backed away from the table. The overhead lights flickered, the ventilation system hummed louder. I glanced at the camera in the corner, its red recording light steady. Then I looked back at the table. Her hand was open again, palm up, fingers relaxed. I left the room, locked the door, called Dr. Patel. She arrived 20 minutes later. We entered together. The body was cold. The hand showed no warmth, no movement. Dr. Patel examined her thoroughly, found nothing unusual. But I saw the footage. I have watched it a dozen times. At the 9-minute mark, the hand curls closed. At the 11-minute mark, it opens again. The timestamp is clear. The movement is undeniable. We still use room C. We have no choice. Space is limited. Cases come in daily. But I never work in there alone anymore. And I never touch the table without gloves. Because sometimes, late at night, when I walk past room C, I hear it. A sound like breath, slow, steady, coming from inside. The door is always locked, the room is always empty, but the table is still warm. I didn't believe in the dead returning until one of them asked me for help. My name is Dr. Simone Laurent, and I have worked as a forensic pathologist at the Orleans Parish Coroner's Office in New Orleans, Louisiana, for 14 years. I have performed over 2,000 autopsies. I have examined victims of violence, disease, accidents, and natural causes. I have documented every wound, every fracture, every anomaly with precision and objectivity. Death has always been final for me, a biological endpoint, nothing more. But that changed when I met her. The first time was October 9th, 2019. Jane Doe, Caucasian female, approximately 30 years old, found in the French Quarter near Decatur Street. Apparent overdose, no identification, no witnesses. The police canvassed the area but found nothing. She was brought to me for examination and identification. I remember her face, delicate features, dark hair, a small birthmark shaped like a crescent moon just below her left collarbone. I photographed it, logged her dental records, took her fingerprints, sent everything to the database. No matches, no missing persons reports, no one claimed her. After 30 days, she was buried in a county cemetery under a numbered marker. I moved on. I had other cases, other bodies. She became a file number, a statistic, one of the unidentified, until she came back. January 22nd, 2020, Jane Doe, Caucasian female, approximately 30 years old, found near the Pontchartrain Expressway. Apparent blunt force trauma, hit and run, no identification, no witnesses. I started the examination the same way I always do. External assessment, photographs, documentation. Then I saw the birthmark, crescent moon, below the left collarbone, exactly where it had been before. I stopped, stared at it, checked my records, pulled the file from 2019, compared the photographs, identical, same birthmark, same placement, same size. I told myself it was coincidence. Birthmarks are common. Crescent shapes are not unique. Then I checked the fingerprints. Perfect match. I ran them again, 3 times. Same result. I checked the dental records. Identical. Every filling, every anomaly. The same woman. But that was impossible. I had examined her body 16 months ago. She had been buried. I had signed the death certificate myself. I reported it to the police. They investigated, exhumed the grave from 2019. The body was still there, decomposed but intact. DNA confirmed it was the same woman I had examined in October 2019. But the woman on my table in January 2020 also matched. Same DNA, same fingerprints, same dental records, same birthmark, two identical bodies, different deaths, different dates. The case was classified as unexplained. The police had no leads, no missing persons matched her, no family came forward. She was buried again. I kept both files. I could not explain it. I did not try. I convinced myself it was a clerical error, a contaminated sample, mislabeled records, anything but the truth. She came back again. June 5th, 2021. Jane Doe, Caucasian female, approximately 30 years old, found in Audubon Park near the lagoon. Apparent drowning, no identification, no witnesses, same birthmark, same fingerprints, same dental records, same face. I stood over her body, my hands shaking. This was the third time. 3 deaths, 3 examinations. Same woman. I checked the records obsessively, pulled every file, reviewed every photograph, compared every detail. Identical, all of them. Identical. I told my supervisor. He thought I was making a mistake, suggested I take time off, said the stress of the job was affecting me, but I knew what I was seeing. I documented everything, kept copies of every file, every photograph, every fingerprint card, and I waited. She came back in March 2023, then again in September, then again in February 2024. 6 times now. 6 bodies, 6 deaths, different causes, different locations, but always the same woman, always unidentified, always unclaimed. I stopped reporting it. No one believed me. The police dismissed it. My colleagues avoided the topic. I kept the files locked in my office. I became obsessed. I started searching missing persons databases myself, facial recognition software, cold cases, unsolved disappearances. Nothing matched. She did not exist anywhere, but she kept coming back. The last time was 3 weeks ago, November 2nd, 2024. Jane Doe, Caucasian female, approximately 30 years old, found near the Industrial Canal, apparent suicide, gunshot wound to the head, no identification, no witnesses. I prepared the examination room, laid out the instruments, pulled on my gloves. When they brought her in, I felt nothing, no shock, no fear, just resignation. I had seen her 6 times before. I knew what I would find. Same birthmark, same fingerprints, same dental records. I began the external examination, photographed the wound, documented the trauma. Then I noticed something I had never seen before. A note, folded, tucked into her left hand. I extracted it carefully, unfolded it. The handwriting was neat, deliberate. It read, "Help me stop." I stared at the note. My hands trembled. I looked at her face. Her eyes were closed. Her expression was peaceful. I checked her hand. There was no rigor mortis. The tissue was too fresh, but she had been dead for at least 12 hours, according to the scene report. I placed the note in an evidence bag, logged it, filed the report, but I kept a copy. I do not know who she is. I do not know why she keeps coming back. But she is asking for help, and I do not know how to give it. I still work at the coroner's office. I still perform autopsies, but I check every Jane Doe now. I look for the birthmark, the fingerprints, the face I have memorized, because I know she will come back. She always does. And next time, I will be ready. Everything in the morgue was routine that night, until the scale started weighing bodies that weren't there. My name is Rebecca Novak, and I have worked as a morgue attendant at the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office in Madison, Wisconsin, for 12 years. My responsibilities include receiving deceased persons, logging intake procedures, maintaining cold storage units, and assisting with body transfers. It is quiet work. Solitary. I prefer the night shift. Less chaos, fewer interruptions. Just me and the steady hum of refrigeration units keeping everything preserved and still. Or that is what it used to be like. Before the north wing, the facility has 2 cold storage wings. South wing handles short-term storage. North wing is for long-term cases. Unclaimed bodies, unidentified persons, complex investigations that take weeks or months to resolve. The north wing is older, built in 1976. The equipment has been updated over the years, but the layout remains the same. 12 refrigeration units, 1 industrial scale, 1 prep station, 1 entrance, no windows. I have worked in both wings. I have never had a preference. Until 6 months ago. It started with the scale. Every morgue has a scale. We weigh every body on intake and again before transfer. It is part of the documentation process. Chain of custody. Legal requirements. The scale in the north wing is digital, medical grade, calibrated monthly. It sits on a raised platform near the prep station. You roll the gurney onto it, lock the wheels, and the weight displays on a wall-mounted screen. In April, I began noticing discrepancies in the north wing logs. Bodies stored there overnight were gaining weight, not significant amounts. 3 pounds, 5 pounds, 7 at most. But it was consistent. I would log a body at 162 pounds on intake. The next morning, the day shift would reweigh the same body before autopsy, 168 pounds. I reported it to my supervisor. He assumed the scale was malfunctioning. We recalibrated it, tested it with known weights. It was accurate, but the discrepancies continued. I started weighing bodies twice before logging them, once on intake, once 30 minutes later. The weights matched, but by morning, the bodies had gained mass, only in the north wing. Bodies stored in the south wing showed no change. My supervisor suggested I was logging incorrectly. I showed him the timestamps, the photographs, the documentation. He had no explanation. He told me to continue monitoring and report any further anomalies. The anomalies escalated. On May 18th, I logged 3 bodies in the north wing. Male, female, male. Ages ranged from 42 to 71. Different causes of death. All weighed on intake. All documented. I locked the wing and returned to my office to complete the paperwork. At 2:13 a.m., I heard a sound, a beep, electronic, coming from the north wing. I walked down the corridor slowly. The north wing door was still locked. I opened it and stepped inside. The cold air hit me immediately. The refrigeration units hummed steadily. Everything was as I had left it. Then I heard it again. The beep. It was coming from the scale. I crossed the room. The scale's display screen was active. It showed a weight reading, 174 pounds, but the platform was empty. No gurney, no body, nothing. I stared at the screen. The reading held steady for 5 seconds, then blinked off. The scale powered down. I checked the units. All 3 bodies were still inside, sealed, undisturbed. I logged the incident and returned to my office. The next morning, I reweighed all 3 punsies. Each had gained 6 pounds. I told my supervisor. He reviewed the security footage. The cameras showed me entering the north wing at 2:13 a.m. They showed me standing by the scale, but the scale platform was empty. No malfunction, no technical error, just an empty scale displaying a weight that should not exist. He asked if I wanted to switch shifts. I said no. I wanted to understand what was happening. Over the next month, it happened 7 more times, always between 2 and 3 a.m., always the same sound, the scale activating on its own, displaying weights, 163 pounds, 158 pounds, 191 pounds, different every time, but always when the platform was empty. I started recording the weights, cross-referencing them with intake logs. The numbers matched bodies that had been stored in the north wing weeks earlier, bodies that had already been autopsied, released, buried, or cremated. On June 29th, I was restocking supplies in the north wing when I heard the scale activate behind me. I turned. The display screen showed 147 pounds. The platform was empty. I watched the screen. The weight fluctuated. 148, 149, 150. It was increasing. I crossed the room slowly. The air felt heavier, colder. The scale beeped again. 151 pounds. 152. I stood 2 feet from the platform. There was nothing on it, nothing visible, but the weight kept climbing. 153, 154. I reached out, extended my hand toward the platform. The air above it felt different, dense, resistant, like pressing against something solid that I could not see. The scale beeped, 155 pounds. I pulled my hand back. The reading held. Then it began to decrease. 154, 153, 152, dropping faster now. 149, 145, 138, then 0. The scale powered off. I stood there, my breath visible in the cold air, staring at the empty platform. My hands were shaking. I left the north wing, locked the door, went to my office, but I did not return that night. The next morning, I requested a transfer to day shift. My supervisor approved it without question. He knew. He had seen the footage. He had read the logs. I do not work nights anymore, but I still hear about the north wing. The scale still activates. The weights still appear, and the bodies still gain mass overnight. The day shift staff weigh them, document the discrepancies, file the reports, but no one works in the North Wing alone, not anymore, because we all know something is standing on that scale. We just cannot see it. If you ever work nights here, don't look directly at what pools in the corner. My name is Adrian Chen, and I have worked as a forensic technician at the King County Autopsy Center in Seattle, Washington, for 8 years. I assist pathologists during post-mortem examinations, process tissue samples, maintain sterile environments, and handle biohazard disposal. The work is precise, clinical. I have always appreciated the clarity of it. Cause and effect, evidence and conclusion. Everything has an explanation, except the drain in examination room 3. The room is located in the southeast corner of the facility. Standard layout, stainless steel surfaces, overhead surgical lighting, ventilation system, instrument cabinets, and in the far corner, beneath the prep sink, a floor drain. It is small, 6 inches in diameter, covered with a steel grate. Every examination room has one. They are necessary for sanitation, blood, fluids, cleaning solutions. Everything goes down the drain, but the drain in room 3 runs backward. I first noticed it 2 years ago. I arrived for my shift at 6 a.m. and began my routine inspection of the examination rooms. Room 1 was clean. Room 2 was clean. When I entered room 3, I saw the puddle. It was small, maybe 8 inches in diameter, clear liquid pooling around the drain. I assumed it was water, a leak in the pipes. I mopped it up, filed a maintenance request, and moved on. The next morning, it was back, same size, same location, same clear liquid. Maintenance inspected the pipes, found nothing, no leaks, no cracks. The plumbing was sound. They cleaned the drain, tested the system, and declared it operational. The puddle appeared again the following morning. This continued for 3 weeks. Every morning, the same puddle, same drain. I started documenting it, photographed it, measured it, mopped it up, filed reports. Maintenance returned multiple times. They could not find the source. The pipes were dry. The room was sealed. There was no water supply near the drain. But every morning, the liquid was there. Then someone tested it. Dr. Cardenas, one of the senior pathologists, became curious. She collected a sample, sent it to the lab. The results came back 4 days later. It was not water. It was cerebrospinal fluid. The CSF, the clear fluid that surrounds the brain and spinal cord. The lab confirmed it. Protein markers, glucose levels, pH balance, all consistent with human cerebrospinal fluid, fresh, uncontaminated. Dr. Cardenas called a meeting. She showed us the results, asked if anyone had explanations. No one did. We had not performed any neurological examinations in room 3 for over a week. There were no procedures that would produce that much CSF. And even if there were, the fluid would have been disposed of through proper biohazard channels, not left to pool on the floor. We sealed the drain. Maintenance poured concrete into it, capped it with steel, installed a new drainage system on the opposite side of the room. We cleaned room 3 thoroughly, sterilized every surface, documented everything. The liquid appeared the next morning, same location, same amount, pooling directly over the sealed drain. Dr. Cardenas collected another sample, same result, cerebrospinal fluid, human, fresh. We stopped using room 3 for 2 months, locked the door, restricted access. The liquid continued to appear every morning without fail. I started checking it at different times. Midnight, 3 a.m., 5 a.m. The puddle was never there. During the night, it only appeared between 5:30 and 6 a.m., right before my shift started. In November, we reopened room 3. We needed the space, backlog of cases. I was assigned to prep it for an examination. I entered at 5:45 a.m. The floor was dry. I set up the instruments, prepared the table, checked the ventilation. At 5:58, I glanced at the corner. The liquid was forming. I watched it. It was not seeping up from the drain. It was not dripping from the ceiling. It was appearing, manifesting, small droplets forming on the tile, growing, spreading until they merged into a puddle. Within 2 minutes, it was the same size as always, 8 inches in diameter, clear, pooling over the sealed drain. I knelt beside it. The liquid was warm, body temperature. I reached out, my hand hovering just above the surface. I could feel the warmth radiating upward. I pulled my hand back, stood, left the room. I told Dr. Cardenas. She came immediately. We entered room 3 together. The puddle was there. She collected a sample, tested it again, same result, cerebrospinal fluid. She asked me to monitor it daily, document the exact time it appeared, measure the volume, photograph it. I agreed. For 3 months, I did exactly that. The puddle appeared every morning between 5:56 and 5:58 a.m., always the same size, always warm, always cerebrospinal fluid. I collected samples weekly, sent them to different labs, same result every time. Then I noticed something else. The volume was increasing, not by much, a few milliliters per week. But it was growing. In January, the puddle was 9 inches in diameter. By February, it was 11 inches. By March, it had spread to 13 inches. I reported this to Dr. Cardenas. She reviewed my documentation, confirmed the measurements. We discussed sealing the room permanently. But before we could make a decision, something changed. On April 6th, I entered room 3 at 5:45 a.m. The puddle was already there, but it was not a puddle anymore. It was a trail. The liquid extended from the drain to the center of the room. A thin line, maybe 2 inches wide, 12 feet long, still warm, still cerebrospinal fluid, but now it was moving. I stood in the doorway, watching. The liquid was flowing, slowly, away from the drain, toward the examination table, like something was pulling it, guiding it. I called Dr. Cardenas. She arrived within 10 minutes. We entered together. The trail had stopped. It ended 3 feet from the table. We collected samples. Same result. We sealed room 3 that day, permanently, locked the door, removed it from the rotation. No one has used it since. But every morning I walk past that door, and every morning I see the liquid seeping out from underneath, a thin line spreading slowly across the hallway floor. We mop it up, document it, Send samples to the lab, but it keeps coming, and every day it moves a little farther. I never reported what I found in the archives, but I see it every time I open a new case file. My name is Dr. Helena Briggs, and I have worked as a medical examiner at the Allegheny County Morgue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for 6 years. I perform autopsies, document findings, determine cause of death, and maintain detailed case records for legal and medical purposes. My work requires absolute precision. Every observation must be recorded. Every measurement must be exact. Every conclusion must be supported by evidence. I have never made an error in documentation, not once, until I found the file that could not exist. It was August 12th, 2023. Jane Doe, unidentified female, approximately 28 years old, found near the Monongahela River, suspected drowning, no identification, no witnesses. The police had no leads. She was brought to me for examination and cause of death determination. I began the external examination at 9:30 a.m. I photographed her face, documented visible marks, noted distinguishing features. She had a small scar above her right eyebrow, a tattoo on her left ankle, 3 letters, ELM. I measured it, photographed it, logged it in the case file. Then I began the internal examination. The lungs showed fluid. Consistent with drowning, I collected samples, documented the findings, estimated time of death at approximately 48 hours prior to discovery. I was completing the final measurements when my assistant mentioned the case number seemed familiar. I checked the system. The case number was unique, sequentially assigned. No duplicates possible, but my assistant insisted she had seen it before. I told her she was mistaken. She showed me the archive log. The case number appeared twice. Once for the current case, August 12th, 2023, and once for a case filed on June 3rd, 2020, 3 years earlier. I pulled the archived file. It was thick, detailed, complete autopsy report, photographs, lab results, toxicology, everything. I opened it. The handwriting was mine. I stared at the pages, my signature, my notes, my exact documentation style. The report described a Jane Doe found near the Monongahela River, suspected drowning, unidentified female, approximately 28 years old, small scar above right eyebrow, tattoo on left ankle, 3 letters, ELM, identical to the body on my table. I checked the date again, June 3rd, 2020. I had been working at this facility then. I would have remembered this case. I remember every Jane Doe, every unidentified victim, but I had no memory of this examination, no memory of writing this report. I compared the photographs. Same woman, same face, same scar, same tattoo. The images were taken in this room, same examination table, same lighting, same equipment, but the metadata showed they were captured 3 years ago. I checked my schedule from June 2020. I had performed an autopsy. That day, the case log showed a different victim. Male, identified, traffic accident. No Jane Doe, no drowning, no unidentified female, but the file existed, complete, detailed, in my handwriting. I read through it carefully. The report described findings I had not yet documented. measurements I had not yet taken. The lung fluid analysis matched samples I had just collected, but not yet sent to the lab. The toxicology report showed trace amounts of diazepam. I had not tested for that yet, but the report described it. Exact concentrations, exact results. I sent the samples to the lab, requested a full toxicology screen. The results came back 3 days later. Diazepam, exact concentrations matching the report from 2020. I showed the archived file to my supervisor. He reviewed it in silence, checked the database, confirmed the case number, confirmed the date. He had no explanation. He suggested the file was mislabeled, a data entry error. He told me to document the current case normally and submit it with a new case number. I did. I completed the report, filed it, archived it, but I kept copies of both files. I compared them every night for a week. They were identical, every measurement, every observation, every conclusion. The only difference was the date. 3 years. I started searching the archives, looking for other duplicates, other files that should not exist. I found 4 more, all Jane Does, all unidentified, all documented in my handwriting, all dated years before I had examined them. Some dated before I had even started working at this facility. One file was dated April 17th, 2018. I started working here in January 2019, but the file existed, complete autopsy report, my signature, my handwriting describing a case I would not examine until March 2022. I documented everything, created a spreadsheet, listed every duplicate, every date discrepancy, every impossible file. I showed it to my supervisor. He told me to stop looking, said it was a database corruption issue. It would handle it. They never did. The files remain in the archive, accessible, documented, impossible. Last month, I examined another Jane Doe, unidentified female, found near Highland Park. I completed the autopsy, documented the findings, submitted the report. Then I checked the archives. The file already existed, dated 2 years in the future, January 8th, 2027. I opened it, my handwriting, my signature, describing findings I had just documented, but also describing findings I had not yet discovered. The report mentioned a fracture I had not yet noticed. I went back to the examination room, re-examined the body. The fracture was there, exactly where the report described it. Exact location, exact measurements. The report also described something else, a detail I had not yet found. The report stated the victim had a small metal object embedded in her left lung tissue, foreign, body, approximately 2 millimeters, surgical steel. I had not found it during the initial examination, but the report insisted it was there. I went back, examined the lung tissue again, sectioned it carefully, found the object, 2 millimeters, surgical steel, exactly as described. The report from 2 years in the future had told me where to look. I do not know how the files exist. I do not know who is writing them. But they are accurate. Every detail, every measurement. They describe cases before I examine them, and they are always in my handwriting. I still work at the morgue. I still perform autopsies, but now I check the archives first. Before every examination, because sometimes the reports are already there, waiting, describing bodies I have not yet seen, findings I have not yet discovered, and they are always correct. I do not know what that means. I do not know if I am writing them, or if something else is, but I keep finding them, and I keep following what they tell me, because they are never wrong. There's a stretch of highway outside the city where the markers refuse to stay on the bodies. My name is Jordan Reeves, and I have worked as an autopsy assistant at the Clark County Coroner's Office in Las Vegas, Nevada, for 10 years. I prepare bodies for examination, assist pathologists during procedures, maintain surgical instruments, and document pre-autopsy conditions. Before every examination, I mark incision lines on the body using surgical markers. Standard protocol: purple ink, medical grade, designed to last through the entire procedure. The marks guide the pathologist's cuts, ensure precision, maintain documentation standards. The ink never fades, not during preparation, not during examination, not ever, except on Interstate 15. The first time it happened was March 27th, 2022, male victim. 41 years old, single vehicle accident on I-15 northbound, mile marker 73, high speed collision with guardrail, ejected from vehicle, pronounced dead at scene, brought to us for autopsy. I prepped the body at 2 p.m. standard Y incision markings. I drew the lines carefully, shoulders to sternum, sternum to pubis, clear purple lines. I photographed them, logged the time, stepped back to prepare the instruments. When I returned 3 minutes later, the marks were gone, completely gone. No trace, no residue. The skin was clean, as if I had never marked it. I thought I had forgotten to mark it. Exhaustion, long shift, simple mistake. I marked the body again, photographed it. This time, I watched. I stood 2 feet away, staring at the purple lines. They began to fade, slowly, like ink dissolving in acid water. Within 90 seconds, they were gone. I called Dr. Patel, showed her. She examined the body, checked the skin, no irritation, no chemical reaction, no medical explanation. She told me to use a different marker. I tried 4 different brands, all medical grade, all designed for autopsy use. They all faded within 2 minutes. Dr. Patel marked the body herself. Same result. The ink vanished. We completed the autopsy without markings, guided the incisions by memory and anatomical landmarks, documented the anomaly, filed the report, moved on. 2 weeks later, it happened again. Female victim, 36 years old, single vehicle accident on I-15 northbound, mile marker 81, head-on collision with concrete divider, pronounced dead at scene, same highway, same result. The markers faded, every brand, every color. Within 2 minutes, gone. I started tracking it. Every case from I-15, every accident. Over the next year, we processed 17 bodies from that highway. 12 of them exhibited the same phenomenon. The markers faded. No explanation, no pattern in victim demographics, no common cause of death. The only connection was the location. Interstate 15, mile markers 68 through 94. A 26-mile stretch. The other 5 victims from that highway showed no Anomaly. The markers stayed. Normal procedure. No issues. I could not identify what made those 12 different. Same highway, same general area, but only some bodies rejected the ink. Then I noticed the gloves. After marking a body that rejected the ink, I would remove my examination gloves and dispose of them. Standard biohazard protocol. But one day in January 2023, I glanced at the gloves before discarding them. The ink was there, not on my fingertips where I held the marker, on the palms, purple lines, forming shapes, symbols I did not recognize, geometric patterns, triangles, circles, ones intersecting at precise angles. I had not drawn those shapes. I had only drawn the Y incision markings and on the body. But the gloves showed different patterns entirely. I photographed them, showed Dr. Patel. She examined them, no explanation. We collected the gloves, stored them as evidence, sent photographs to the state forensic lab. They analyzed the ink, standard surgical marker composition. No contaminants, no foreign substances, just purple ink in patterns that should not exist. It happened again the next month. Body from I-15, mile marker 77, markers faded from the skin. Appeared on the gloves, different symbols this time, more complex, layered patterns, repeating sequences. I started photographing every pair of gloves after marking bodies from that highway. Over 6 months, I collected 38 pairs. 12 showed the symbols, always different, always geometric, always precise. I showed them to a colleague who studied symbology. She could not identify them, not mathematical notation, not known alphabets, not religious or cultural symbols, nothing in any database, original, unique, meaningless, or so we thought. In August, I was prepping a Bailey from I-15. Male victim, 29 years old, motorcycle accident, mile marker 86. I marked the incision lines. They faded. I removed my gloves. The symbols were there, but this time I recognized them. I had seen them before. On a previous pair of gloves, different case, different victim, but the same symbol, exact match, same angles, same proportions, identical. I pulled the archived photographs, compared them. 3 pairs of gloves showed the same symbol, all from victims found at mile marker 86, all single vehicle accidents, all pronounced dead at scene. I checked the other symbols, found more matches, patterns repeating, specific symbols appearing for specific mile markers. Mile marker 73 always produced one type. Mile marker 81 produced another, consistent, repeatable. The symbols were location markers. I mapped them, created a chart, every symbol, every mile marker, every victim. A pattern emerged. The symbols clustered around specific points. Mile markers 73, 77, 81, 86, and 91. I researched those locations, accident reports, historical data, traffic studies, nothing unusual. Standard highway, normal traffic patterns, no elevated accident rates, no geographic anomalies, but the symbols persisted. Last month, we received another body from I-15. Female victim, 44 years old, single vehicle accident, mile marker 91. I prepped her for examination, marked the incision lines. They faded within 90 seconds. I removed my gloves. The symbols were there, But this time there was something else. Words, not symbols, not patterns. Words, written in purple ink across the palm. Block letters, clear, readable. Help us leave. I stared at the gloves, my hands just trembling. I photographed them, showed Dr. Patel. She stood in silence, reading the words over and over. We completed the autopsy, found nothing unusual, standard trauma, expected injuries, cause of death, blunt force trauma, time of death, consistent with scene report. But the gloves remained, the words remained. I filed the report, archived the photographs, stored the gloves in evidence. I still work at the coroner's office. I still prep bodies from I-15. The markers still fade. The symbols still appear. But now, sometimes, there are words, always the same message. Help us leave. I do not know what it means. I do not know who is writing it. But it appears on my gloves, in my handwriting, in ink that vanished from the bodies, and I do not know how to help them. You weren't supposed to see this footage, but now it sees you back. My name is Olivia Mendez, and I have worked as a security systems operator at the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences in Houston, Texas, for 7 years. I monitor surveillance cameras, maintain digital recording systems, archive footage for legal documentation, and ensure facility security protocols are followed. The building has 42 cameras. I know every angle, every blind spot, every lens. I review footage daily, log incidents, archive critical recordings. It is repetitive work, predictable, nothing ever changes. Until I found camera 43, the system shows 42 cameras. That has always been the count. Lobby, hallways, examination rooms, evidence storage, parking garage, loading dock, every area covered, every camera numbered, 1 through 42, no gaps, no missing numbers. The system is closed, no external feeds, no wireless connections. Everything hardwired, everything controlled. On November 3rd, 2023, I was reviewing overnight footage during my routine morning audit. Standard procedure. I check flagged motion events, verify staff access times, document any anomalies. The footage from the previous night showed normal activity. Night shift staff, body intake, standard procedures, nothing unusual. Then I noticed the file size. The backup drive showed 13 hours of footage, but we only record 12 hours during night shift. 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., 12 hours, always. The system is programmed that way, but the drive showed 13. I checked the file list. 43 video files, one for each camera, except we only have 42 cameras. The extra file was labeled KAM43. Timestamp 2:47 a.m. Duration 53 minutes. I opened it. The footage showed examination room 2, but the angle was wrong. Our camera in that room is mounted in the northeast corner, elevated, wide angle, captures the entire space. The angle I was watching showed the room from inside the refrigeration unit, low position, looking outward through the small glass window in the unit door, showing staff moving through the room, working, unaware. Camera 43 did not exist. There was no camera inside the refrigeration unit. I had inspected that unit personally. multiple times. Standard equipment, sealed door, temperature controlled, no modifications, no camera. But the footage existed. I checked the camera system logs. No record of camera 43, no installation date, no maintenance history, no physical device registered, but the footage was there, clear, high definition, time stamped, real. I reported it to my supervisor. He reviewed the footage, checked the physical system, confirmed only 42 cameras existed. He suggested it was a software glitch, corrupted file, mislabeled footage from another camera. He told me to delete it and monitor for recurrence. I deleted it, ran system diagnostics. Everything tested normal. 42 cameras, all functioning correctly. The following week it appeared again. November 10th, 2:47 a.m., camera 43, same angle, same location, inside the refrigeration unit, looking out, 53 minutes of footage, showing night shift Steph working in examination room 2, unaware they were being watched from inside a sealed unit. I reviewed the footage carefully. The angle was precise, steady, professional quality, not a phone camera, not a hidden device, true security camera footage, but the camera did not exist. I saved a copy, showed it to the facility engineer. He examined the refrigeration unit, removed panels, inspected internal components, no camera, no wiring, no lens, no device of any kind, just insulation, cooling mechanisms, and sealed walls. But the footage continued every 7 days, always 2:47 a.m., always 53 minutes, same angle, same position, camera 43, recording from inside the refrigeration unit. I started watching the footage, studying it, looking for explanations. The recordings showed staff preparing bodies for examination, transferring remains, updating logs, standard procedures, nothing unusual, except they were being watched from inside a unit that should be empty and sealed. Then I noticed the movement. In the footage from November 17th, something moved inside the unit. A shadow, brief, passing across the lens, as if someone was inside, repositioning, adjusting the angle, but the unit was empty. I verified it myself. Opened the door during night shift, confirmed it. Empty, cold, nothing inside, but the footage showed movement. Something inside the unit. With the camera, I reviewed every recording, found movement in 7 of them. Always brief, always subtle. A shadow, a shape, something blocking the lens momentarily, then moving away. On December 1st, I decided to monitor examination room 2 in real time. I watched the camera feeds live. Camera 11 showed the standard angle, northeast corner, wide view, everything normal. At 2:47 a.m., I checked the backup drive. Camera 43 was recording. I switched to live view. The file was actively writing. I could see the footage being captured in real time. The same angle. Inside the refrigeration unit, looking out. But when I checked the physical unit through camera 11, the door was closed, sealed. The temperature display showed the 38 degrees, functioning normally. I grabbed a flashlight, ran down to examination room 2, entered the room. The night shift technician was there, working on a body. I approached the refrigeration unit, pressed my face to the window, looked inside. Empty, dark, cold. I returned to my office, checked the live feed. Camera 43 was still recording, still showing the view from inside the unit, but I had just confirmed it was empty. The footage captured me. I watched myself on the recording, approaching the unit, looking through the window, my face pressed against the glass, staring directly into the lens, into camera 43. But there was no camera there. In the recording, I could see my expression, confusion, fear. I watched myself turn away, leave the room. The recording continued for 41 more minutes, showing the technician working unaware. Then at 3:40 a.m. something happened. The camera moved, not the angle, the position. The footage showed the view tilting, shifting, as if the camera was being lifted, carried. The angle changed from looking through the window to looking at the ceiling, then the walls, then the door from the inside, as if someone was holding the camera, walking with it. The recording showed the refrigeration unit door opening from the inside. Impossible. The door can only be opened from the outside. No internal handle, no release mechanism, safety regulation, but the footage showed it opening. The camera moved through the doorway into examination room 2. The technician's back was visible. He was working, writing notes. The camera moved closer, closer, until it was standing directly behind him, less than 2 feet away. He never turned around. The recording ended at 3:40 a.m. I reported everything to my supervisor, showed him the footage. He watched it in silence. Then he told me to archive it, restrict access, tell no one. He said it was a security issue, under investigation, classified. That was 6 months ago. Camera 43 still records, every week, 2:47 a.m., 53 minutes, always from inside the refrigeration unit. But now, sometimes, the camera leaves the unit, moves through the room, stands behind staff, watches them work, and they never notice. I still monitor the system. I still archive the footage, but I do not go into examination room 2 anymore. Not at night, not alone, because camera 43 is watching, and I do not know what is holding it. I didn't believe the dead could speak until I heard my recordings played back. My name is Dr. Nathan Cross, and I have worked as a forensic pathologist at the Suffolk County Morgue in Boston, Massachusetts for 11 years. I perform post-mortem examinations, document findings, determine cause of death, and maintain audio recordings of every procedure for legal documentation and training purposes. Standard protocol requires verbal narration during autopsy. I describe what I observe, state measurements, explain procedures. Every word is recorded. Every observation is documented. The recordings are clear, accurate, uncontaminated, or they were, until the echo started. The first time I heard it was January 15th, 2024. I was reviewing audio from a case completed 3 days earlier. Male victim, 62 years old, cardiac arrest, standard examination. I had performed dozens of similar cases. Routine procedure, predictable findings, nothing unusual. I played the recording during my documentation review. My voice was clear, professional, steady narration, describing the external examination, noting livor mortis, measuring contusions, everything standard. Then I heard the second voice. It was faint, distant, but unmistakable, a voice repeating my words. 3 seconds delayed, same words, different tone. Where my voice stated facts objectively, the echo voice delivered them with question marks. Where I described findings with certainty, the echo questioned them. Inverse inflection. Opposite emphasis. I played the section again. My voice. No visible trauma to the anterior torso. Clear statement. Then 3 seconds later, the echo. No visible trauma to the anterior torso. Same words. Question instead of statement. Doubt instead of certainty. I checked the recording equipment. Single microphone, suspended above the examination table. No other audio sources. No radio interference. No external devices. Clean signal, but the second voice was there. Recorded, preserved. I played the entire 63-minute recording. The echo appeared 47 times, always 3 seconds delayed, always inverse inflection, always questioning what I had stated, doubting what I had confirmed. I reported it to the audio technician. He analyzed the file, confirmed no technical malfunction, no signal interference, no post-processing artifacts. The second voice was captured during the original recording, present in the raw data. Real. But I had been alone during that examination. No assistants, no observers, just me, the body, and the microphone. I dismissed it as acoustic anomaly, echo from the ventilation system, sound reflection from stainless steel surfaces, environmental noise shaped by room acoustics into words that mimicked my voice. Coincidence, nothing more. Then I heard it in my next recording. January 22nd. Female victim, 34 years old, overdose. I performed the examination alone, narrated clearly, maintained proper recording protocols. When I reviewed the audio, the echo was there, stronger now, clearer, still 3 seconds delayed, still inverse inflection, but this time I recognized the voice. It matched the male victim from 2 weeks earlier, the 62-year-old cardiac arrest case. His voice, not mine, not an echo, him speaking my words, questioning my findings, 3 seconds behind me. I verified it, pulled the case file, found his medical records, listened to voicemail samples provided by his family for identification purposes. The voice matched. Exact pitch, exact tone, same vocal patterns. The deceased male from January 15th was speaking on the recording from January 22nd. That was impossible. He had been cremated 5 days earlier, but his voice was on my recording. Clear, undeniable, real. I began reviewing all my previous recordings, searching for the echo. I found it in 38 cases spanning the past 6 months, different voices, different deceased individuals. Always 3 seconds delayed, always inverse inflection, always questioning my findings. Each echo voice matched a victim from an earlier unrelated case. Cardiac arrest victim echoing on overdose recording. Drowning victim echoing on traffic accident recording. Gunshot victim echoing on natural death recording. No pattern in victim selection. No connection between cases. Random. Inexplicable. I documented everything. Created a database. Listed every recording with an echo voice. Matched each echo to its source victim. Analyzed the patterns. Found none. The victims had nothing in common. Different ages, different causes of death, different demographics. The only connection was they had all been examined in this facility, on this table, with this microphone. On February 8th, I performed an examination with a colleague present. Female victim, 78 years old, stroke. Dr. Reyes assisted, witnessed the entire procedure. I narrated clearly. She confirmed every observation. We completed the examination together, reviewed the findings, filed the report. That evening, I played the recording. The echo was there. But this time, it was not repeating my words. It was repeating Dr. Reyes's words. She had only spoken twice during the procedure, confirming organ weights, verifying measurements, brief statements, professional observations. The echo repeated both, 3 seconds delayed, inverse inflection, but the voice was not hers. The voice was the female victim, the 78-year-old stroke patient, dead on the table, speaking Dr. Reyes's words back to us, questioning what she had confirmed. I showed Dr. Reyes the recording. She listened in silence, verified it was her words being repeated, confirmed the echo voice matched the victim. She had no explanation. She requested transfer to another facility the next day. I continued working, continued recording. The echoes persisted, growing stronger, clearer, closer to real time. What started as 3 seconds delayed became 2 seconds, then 1 second. By March, the echo was simultaneous, speaking my words as I spoke them, not delayed, not echo, duet. On March 19th, I was examining a John Doe, unidentified male, approximately 40 years old, found in the Charles River, suspected drowning. I began the narration, described the external findings, started to detail the internal examination. Then the microphone picked up a third voice, not mine, not an echo, not the victim, a third voice, speaking independently, not repeating, not questioning, adding information, describing findings I had not yet observed, details I had not yet documented. The voice said, fracture to the left posterior rib, 6th and 7th, ante-mortem. I had not examined the ribs yet. I was documenting the thoracic cavity, but I checked, turned the body, examined the posterior ribs. The fracture was there, 6th and 7th ribs, healing injury, ante-mortem, exactly as described. The voice continued throughout the examination, describing findings before I found them, noting details I would discover minutes later, guiding me, directing me, teaching me. I completed the examination in silence, listening, following the voice. Every detail it provided was accurate. Every observation was correct. When I finished, I asked a question, spoke directly to the microphone. Who are you? The recording captured my question. Then 3 seconds later, an answer, multiple voices, overlapping, dozens, maybe hundreds, all speaking simultaneously, all saying the same thing. We are everyone you have examined. We remain. We observe. We remember. I still work at the morgue. I still record every examination, but I am never alone. The voices are always there, speaking, echoing, guiding, questioning, and now, when I speak, they answer. Everything in the morgue follows procedure until the tags start predicting who will come for them. My name is Carlos Mendoza, and I have worked as a morgue intake coordinator at the Maricopa County Medical Examiner's Office in Phoenix, Arizona for 13 years. I process deceased persons, assign identification tags, maintain chain of custody documentation, and coordinate with law enforcement and family members. Every body receives a toe tag: white plastic, sequential case number, name when available, date of intake, time of death, standard information, secured to the left big toe. It stays with the body through examination, storage, and release. Simple, systematic, unchanging, except when the second tag appears. The first time was April 3rd, 2023. John Doe, unidentified male, approximately 55 years old, found in a vacant lot near Van Buren Street. Natural causes: no identification, no wallet, no phone, no one reported him missing. I processed him at 6 a.m. Attached the toe tag, case number M230403001. Date: April 3rd, 2023. Stored him in Unit 7. Logged the documentation. Standard procedure. 3 days later, during routine storage inspection, I checked Unit 7. The body was there, undisturbed, but he had 2 toe tags, both on the left big toe, both identical, same case number, same information, except the date. The second tag read April 10th, 2023, 7 days in the future. I examined both tags, same material, same printing, same attachment method, but I had only placed one tag. I had photographed it during intake. The documentation showed one tag. Now there were 2. I removed the second tag, filed an incident report, assumed someone had made a clerical error, attached a duplicate by mistake, but I was the only person who had accessed that unit. No one else had touched the body. The log confirmed it. I completed the documentation and moved on. On April 10th, 2023, a woman came to the facility. She was looking for her brother, missing for 8 days. She provided a description: age, height, build, physical characteristics. It matched John Doe from Unit 7. We showed her the photographs. She confirmed it was him, identified him immediately, provided his name: Robert Chen, 54 years old, lived alone, no recent contact with family. She filed the paperwork, claimed the body. We released him to her custody. On April 10th, exactly the date on the second toe tag, I checked my records, reviewed the incident report, confirmed the date. The second tag had predicted when he would be claimed, 7 days in advance. Exact date. I told myself it was coincidence. Strange timing. Nothing more. But I kept the removed toe tag, stored it in my files, documented everything. It happened again in May. Jane Doe, unidentified female, approximately 32 years old, found near South Mountain Park, suspected. Overdose, no identification. Processed May 14th. 1 toe tag. Case number M230514001. Date May 14th, 2023. 4 days later, I inspected the storage unit. 2 toe tags. The second one dated May 21st, 7 days in the future. I removed it, filed a report, documented everything, waited. On May 21st, a man came to the facility. He was searching for his daughter, missing for 11 days. Description matched Jane Doe. We showed him the photographs. He confirmed, identified her, Jennifer Wallace, 33 years old, struggled with addiction. He filed the paperwork, claimed the body, released May 21st, exactly the date on the second toe tag. I began monitoring every unidentified body, checking storage units daily, looking for the second tags. Over 6 months, I found 11 of them. Always duplicate toe tags, always 7 days in the future, always predicting the exact date the body would be claimed. Not all unidentified bodies received a second tag, only some. I could not predict which ones, but when the second tag appeared, it was always accurate, every single time. The body would be claimed on the date shown, never early, never late. Exact. In November, I found a second tag on a body that had been in storage for 3 weeks. John Doe, approximately 68 years old, found near Tempe Town Lake. Natural causes, processed October 19th. The second tag appeared November 8th, dated November 15th. But this tag was different. The name field was not blank. It showed a name, Michael Torres. The body was still unidentified. We had no name for him, no identification, no missing persons match, but the tag showed a name. 7 days before anyone should know it. On November 15th, a family came to the facility. They were looking for their father, missing for 28 days. They provided a name, Michael Flores, age, description, physical details. It matched the John Doe, close but not exact. We showed them the photographs. They confirmed, but corrected the name, not Flores, Torres. He had changed his name years ago. Legal documentation, Michael Torres, 69 years old. They filed the paperwork, claimed the body, released November 15th. The second tag had predicted the exact name, the correct name, before anyone had identified him. I escalated my reports, showed my supervisor, provided documentation, photographs, timeline, evidence. He reviewed everything, consulted with facility management. They had no explanation, called it clerical errors, data entry mistakes, coincidence. They told me to continue documenting, but stop filing incident reports, said it was creating unnecessary paperwork. But the tags continued. Last month, I processed Jane Doe, unidentified female, approximately 26 years old, found near Papago Park. Apparent suicide, no identification. Processed December 7th, standard toe tag, logged, stored, documented. 2 days later, I found the second tag, dated December 14th, 7 days ahead, but this time there was additional information. The name field showed Sarah Kim, and below the date, handwritten in blue ink, a note. Tell her mother she is sorry. I photographed the tag, removed it, stored it, waited. On December 14th, a woman came to the facility. She was looking for her daughter, missing for 9 days. She provided a name, Sarah Kim, 25 years old. Description matched. We showed her the photographs. She broke down, confirmed her daughter, Sarah Kim, struggled with depression, had left a note. The mother wanted to see the body. During the viewing, I stood outside the room. I could hear the mother crying, speaking to her daughter, saying she forgave her, saying she understood, saying she loved her. When she emerged, she thanked me. Said she had peace knowing her daughter's last thoughts were of her. Said Sarah would have wanted her to know she was sorry. I never showed her the toe tag, never mentioned the note, but somehow she knew the tags still appear weekly, monthly, unpredictably, always 7 days ahead, always accurate, sometimes with names, sometimes with notes, messages from the deceased to the living, delivered through plastic tags that should not exist. I do not know how they appear. I do not know what writes them, but they are never wrong, and now I wait for them, because they tell me who is coming and when, and sometimes they tell me what the deceased could not say before they died. I never believed the stories about the old wing until I found the prints that couldn't be there. My name is Marcus Webb, and I have worked as a morgue attendant at the Wayne County Morgue in Detroit, Michigan for 6 years. I prepare bodies for viewing, assist with transfers, maintain body storage units, and ensure all deceased persons are properly secured and documented. Standard procedure requires all bodies to be placed in sealed bags before refrigeration. Heavy-duty vinyl, double zippers, tamper-evident seals. Once sealed, the bags remain closed until examination or release. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. That is the rule. That has always been the rule until the handprints started appearing. The first time was September 23rd, 2023. I was transferring a bone from cold storage to the examination room. Male victim, 76 years old. Natural causes, family viewing scheduled for that afternoon. I removed the bag from the storage unit, placed it on the gurney, and began unzipping it for preparation. The zipper was stiff, harder to open than usual. I pulled it slowly, and that is when I saw them. Handprints, small, child-sized, pressed against the inside of the zipper track, as if someone had been gripping it from within, trying to open it from the inside. The prints were dark, brownish residue, sticky. I stopped unzipping, examined the prints closely. They were clear, distinct, 4 fingers, 1 thumb, both hands, positioned exactly where someone would grip if they were trying to pull the zipper open from inside the bag, but the bag had been sealed for 4 days. The body inside was a 76-year-old man, not a child, and he had been deceased for 96 hours. There was no way anyone could have touched the zipper from the inside. I opened the bag completely, examined the body. No abnormalities, no signs of tampering. His hands were positioned at his sides, exactly where I had placed them during intake. No movement, no disturbance. But the prints on the zipper were real, fresh, undeniable. I photographed them, filed a report, showed my supervisor. He examined the bag, confirmed the prints. No explanation. He suggested contamination during manufacturing, residue from the production facility. I accepted that explanation, cleaned the zipper, completed the preparation, released the body to the family. But I kept thinking about those prints, the size, the position, the desperation in how they gripped the zipper. 2 weeks later, it happened again. Female victim, 62 years old, cardiac arrest, same scenario, body sealed for 3 days. When I unzipped the bag, the prints were there, small handprints inside the zipper track, child-sized, both hands gripping, trying to open it from within. I collected samples this time, swabbed the residue, sent it to the lab for analysis. The results came back 6 days later. Embalming fluid, formaldehyde-based compound. Specific chemical signature. The lab identified the exact formula. It matched a brand we had used at this facility. But we had stopped using that formula 15 years ago. Discontinued, replaced with newer, safer compounds. We had not had that specific embalming fluid in this building since 2009, but the prints tested positive for it. Fresh application, recent contact. I showed the results to my supervisor. He reviewed them in silence. Then he told me something I had never heard before. He said the facility had a pediatric wing years ago, before renovations, late 1990s through early 2000s. They had processed children there, accident victims, abuse cases, stillbirths, tragic cases. The wing was closed in 2008, converted to general storage. The embalming room was sealed, equipment removed, but the space remained. He said staff had reported incidents back then, sounds, movement, equipment activating on its own. They had dismissed it as old building settling, electrical issues, nothing supernatural, just structural problems. But the incident stopped after the wing closed. Everything went quiet. Until now, I asked if the handprints could be connected to the old wing. He said no. The bodies showing the prints had no connection to that area. Different storage units, different intake times, different locations, no logical link. But the embalming fluid matched the same compound used in the pediatric wing 15 years ago. I started documenting every case, checking every body bag during transfer. Over 3 months, I found the handprints on 9 bags. Always the same size, always positioned the same way, always gripping the inside of the zipper, always testing positive for the discontinued embalming fluid. The bodies inside were never children, always adults, different ages, different causes of death, no pattern, but the prints were consistent, child-sized hands, trying to open the bags from inside. In December, I was working late, transferring multiple bodies for next day examinations. I removed a bag from Unit 12, male victim, 53 years old, traffic accident, sealed for 2 days. I placed the bag on the gurney and reached for the zipper. It moved, not much, maybe an inch, but I saw it. The zipper pull shifted downward, slowly, as if someone was pulling it from the inside. I stepped back, watched. The zipper moved again, another inch, then stopped. I stood frozen. The bag was sealed. The body inside was deceased, examined, documented. There was no one inside capable of moving anything, but the zipper had moved. I had seen it. I approached slowly, placed my hand on the zipper pull. It was warm, body temperature, but the bag had been refrigerated for 48 hours. It should have been cold. I pulled the zipper down, fast, opened the bag completely. The body was positioned normally, hands at his sides, no movement, no disturbance. But on the inside of the zipper track, the handprints were there, fresh, wet, still forming. I watched as the residue spread, small fingers, small palms, pressing against the vinyl, as if invisible hands were gripping the zipper from inside the bag. I backed away, left the room, reported it immediately. My supervisor came down, examined the bag, saw the prints forming, watched them appear in real time. He had no explanation. He sealed the room, called facility management. They investigated, found nothing, no source, no cause, no explanation. But the prints continued every week, multiple bags, always the same. Child sized handprints inside the zippers, trying to open them from within. And now, sometimes the zippers move on their own, slowly, an inch at a time, as if small hands are pulling them open, trying to get out. We still use the storage units. We have no choice. Space is limited. Cases come daily. But I check every bag now before I open it, because sometimes the zipper is already partially open, pulled down from the inside, and the handprints are there, fresh, warm, waiting. I do not know who is leaving them. I do not know what they want, but they are children, and they are trapped, and they are trying to get out, and I do not know how to help them. There's a unit in the back that stays cold when everything else fails, and the bodies inside stay perfect. My name is Dr. Isabel Moreno, and I have worked as a forensic pathologist at the Miami-Dade County Medical Examiner in Miami, Florida, for 9 years. I perform autopsies, document post-mortem changes, analyze decomposition patterns, and determine time of death based on tissue degradation. Florida's heat accelerates decomposition. Bodies deteriorate rapidly. Even in refrigeration, changes occur. Tissue breaks down. Bacteria multiply. Decay is inevitable. It is a constant we measure, a process we document. Except in Unit 19. Unit 19 is located in the north corner of the cold storage facility. It is identical to the other units. Stainless steel, sliding drawer, temperature display, cooling mechanism, standard medical equipment. Installed in 2011. Same manufacturer as all the others, same specifications, same maintenance schedule. But Unit 19 is different. It stays at 32.1 degrees Fahrenheit. Always. Exactly. Never higher, never lower. Perfect cold. We first noticed it 3 years ago during a facility-wide power outage, hurricane season, severe storm, loss of electricity for 11 hours. Backup generators failed after 6 hours. The entire facility went dark. All refrigeration units stopped. Temperature began rising immediately. Bodies in storage started deteriorating. We documented significant decomposition in multiple cases. Loss of tissue integrity, bacterial growth, expected results given the circumstances. But Unit 19 stayed cold. When power returned, we checked all units. Temperature logs showed the outage. All units had warmed to ambient temperature, 68 to 73 degrees. All except Unit 19. Its temperature log showed a flat line, 32.1 degrees, uninterrupted for 11 hours with no power. We assumed the sensor was malfunctioning, showing false readings. But when we opened the drawer, cold air poured out. Visible condensation. The body inside was frozen, solid, preserved perfectly. No decomposition, no warming, no change, as if the unit had never lost power. We inspected the mechanism. Engineers examined the cooling system, Found no backup power source, no battery, no auxiliary generator. The unit had been completely without electricity for 11 hours. It should have warmed, but it stayed at 32.1 degrees. The engineers recalibrated the sensors, tested the system. Everything functioned normally. They declared it operational and moved on. But I kept monitoring it, checking the temperature daily, recording the readings, 32.1 degrees, every day, every hour, never varying. 6 months later, we had another power outage. Shorter duration, 2 hours. Daytime, planned maintenance. All refrigeration units stopped. Temperature rose in every unit, except Unit 19. It stayed at 32.1 degrees, uninterrupted, perfect cold. I started documenting the bodies stored there, tracking decomposition rates, comparing them to bodies in other units. The results were impossible. Bodies stored in Unit 19 showed no decomposition, no tissue breakdown, no bacterial growth, no changes consistent with normal post-mortem processes. They remained in the exact state they were in at the time of storage, indefinitely, perfectly preserved. A body stored for 2 weeks in Unit 19 showed less decomposition than a body stored for 3 days in other units. The preservation was not normal, not medical, not explainable by temperature alone. Then I noticed the eyes. Every body stored in Unit 19 developed ice crystals in the vitreous humor, the gel-like substance inside the eyeball. It is common in frozen bodies. Expected, but these crystals were different. They formed patterns, geometric, symmetrical, precise, not random ice formation, deliberate structures. I photographed them during examinations, documented the patterns. Over 6 months, I collected images from 23 bodies stored in Unit 19. 14 showed the crystalline patterns, always in both eyes, always geometric, but the patterns were not identical. Each body developed unique formations, different arrangements, different structures. I showed the images to a crystallographer colleague at the university. She analyzed them, confirmed they were ice crystals, but the formations were unusual, too uniform, too precise. She said natural ice crystals form fractally, chaotically. These were ordered, designed. She had no explanation for how they formed. In March, I stored a Jane Doe in Unit 19, unidentified female, approximately 38 years old, drowning victim, found in Biscayne Bay, standard intake procedure, photographed, documented, sealed in Unit 19, scheduled for examination in 3 days. When I opened the drawer for examination, the ice crystals were already formed, visible through the corneas, clear geometric patterns. I photographed them before beginning the autopsy. The patterns were more complex than previous cases, layered, three-dimensional structures visible in both eyes. During the examination, I extracted the vitreous humor, placed samples under microscope. The crystals were intricate, perfect hexagonal formations, repeating patterns, mathematical precision. I photographed them at high magnification, documented everything. Then I noticed something in the patterns. Repetition, specific sequences. I enlarged the images, enhanced the contrast. The patterns formed sequences like data, like information encoded in crystalline structure. I showed my colleague. She agreed the patterns had structure consistent with information storage, binary like sequences, repeating codes, but she could not decipher them. She suggested consulting a cryptographer, someone trained in pattern recognition, code breaking. I never did, because 3 days later, the patterns changed. I was documenting another body from Unit 19. Male victim, 51 years old, cardiac arrest, stored for 1 week. I examined the eyes, photographed the ice crystals. The patterns matched the Jane Doe exactly. Same geometric formations, same sequences, same structures. But these were two different people, different causes of death, different storage times. They should not have identical patterns. I checked my archives, compared all the crystalline photographs, found matches. 3 bodies showed identical patterns. 4 others showed patterns that were mirrors of each other, symmetrical reflections, deliberate duplications. The patterns were not random, they were communicating, repeating, reinforcing. The bodies stored in Unit 19 were developing identical crystalline structures, as if they were connected, linked, sharing information through ice formations in their eyes. I reported this to facility management, showed them the evidence, the photographs, the analysis, the impossibility of Unit 19. They investigated, brought engineers, specialists. They examined the unit thoroughly, found nothing. No power source, no mechanism to explain the constant temperature, no reason for the preservation, no cause for the patterns. They recommended decommissioning Unit 19, sealing it, removing it from service. But before they could, we had another major power outage, hurricane, Category 3, direct hit. Facility lost power for 18 hours. All units failed. Temperature rose to ambient. Decomposition accelerated in all stored bodies, except Unit 19. It stayed at 32.1 degrees. And when we finally restored power and opened it, we found something impossible. The bodies inside had moved, not much, just slightly, repositioned, all facing the same direction, all with their eyes open, all showing that the same crystalline pattern, identical formations in every eye of every body. We evacuated the facility, called authorities. They examined everything, found no evidence of tampering, no intruders, no explanation, just bodies that had moved on their own, in a unit that stays cold without power, developing patterns in their eyes that match, that repeat, that communicate. Unit 19 is still in service. We still use it because it never fails. It preserves perfectly, and bodies stored there never decompose. They just develop the patterns in their eyes. And sometimes, when I open the drawer, I see them watching, all of them. Eyes open, crystals gleaming, seeing something, knowing something, waiting for something. And the temperature never changes, 32.1 degrees, perfect cold, forever. I found photographs of myself performing autopsies on people who are still alive. My name is Rachel Huang, and I have worked as a forensic assistant at the Denver office of the medical examiner in Denver, Colorado, for 5 years. I assist pathologists during post-mortem examinations, photograph bodies and findings, maintain documentation systems, and archive case files. Every examination is photographed. Standard angles, consistent lighting, clear documentation. Every image is time-stamped, labeled, and filed digitally. The system is secure, chronological, accurate, or it was, until I found the future files. It started with a routine archive audit, February 8th, 2024. I was reviewing digital storage, verifying file integrity, checking for corrupted images, standard quarterly maintenance. I was scanning through case folders when I noticed a file name that did not match our convention. The date was wrong. August 15th, 2024. 6 months in the future. I assumed it was a typo. Manual entry error. I opened the file to correct it. The folder contained 43 photographs, autopsy documentation, professional quality, proper angles, clear images, but the date stamp on every photo read August 15, 2024. 6 months ahead. I examined the photographs. They showed an autopsy in progress. Male victim, approximately 42 years old. External examination, Y incision, internal organ documentation, complete procedure. The examination room was familiar. Same equipment, same table, same lighting. It was our facility, our room, but the photos were dated 6 months in the future. Then I saw myself in the photographs, not just in one image, in 17 of them, background, partially visible, standing at the instrument table, preparing samples, assisting with measurements, wearing my standard scrubs, my ID badge, visible in 3 close shots, Rachel Huang, same badge I wore every day, but the photos were dated August 15th, 2024. I checked the case number, M240815003. Following our sequential system, the last case we had processed was M240208007. February 8th, 2024. The case number in the future photos was 500 cases ahead, approximately 6 months of work. I reported it to my supervisor, showed him the files. He examined them carefully, verified they were in our system, checked the metadata, creation date, August 15, 2024, file properties confirmed it, timestamp confirmed it. The photos were dated 6 months in the future, but they existed now. Accessible, documented. He suggested system clock error, corrupted date stamps, technical malfunction, but the photos were real, detailed, professional. They showed an actual examination, an actual body, an actual procedure. They were not corrupted files, they were documentation. From the future, I started searching for more, scanning the entire archive, looking for other files with future dates. I found 37 folders, all dated between March 2024 and November 2024, all containing autopsy photographs, all showing our facility, our equipment, our staff, including me. I appeared in 216 photographs across the 37 cases. Different examinations, different bodies, different dates, all in the future, always in the background, always assisting, always working. But the photos existed now. In February, I documented everything, created a spreadsheet, listed every case, every date, every image where I appeared, showed my supervisor. He escalated to facility management. They launched an investigation. IT department examined the servers, found no evidence of hacking, No unauthorized access, no external uploads. The files were created internally by our documentation system on dates that had not occurred yet. Security reviewed the findings, confirmed the photos showed our facility, verified the equipment, recognized the staff, but could not explain the dates, could not explain how photos from August existed in February. They recommended monitoring, waiting, see if reality matched the documentation when the dates arrived. I waited, checked the archive daily. The future files remained unchanged, constant. I memorized the cases, the victim details visible in the photographs, age, gender, distinguishing features, causes of death suggested by visible trauma. I knew what was coming, who would arrive, when they would arrive. March 15th, 2024. A folder dated March 15 appeared in the archive 2 weeks earlier. I had reviewed the photographs. Male victim, approximately 37 years old, gunshot wound to chest. The photos showed me assisting Dr. Ramirez with the examination, clear images, detailed documentation. On March 15, a body arrived. Male, 38 years old, gunshot wound to chest, homicide. Denver Police Department requested immediate autopsy. Dr. Ramirez was assigned. He asked me to assist. I agreed. We performed the examination. I photographed the procedure, standard documentation, professional angles, proper lighting. When I reviewed the photos that evening, they matched the archive, the future photos. Exactly. Same angles, same moments, same positioning. I was standing in the exact spots shown in the future documentation, performing the exact actions, at the exact times. The future photos had predicted everything, every detail, every moment, 6 months in advance. I compared them side by side, the archived future photos and my current documentation. Identical, not similar. Identical, same lighting, same shadows, same positions, same everything. The future had already been photographed, and I had just recreated it perfectly. This continued through April, May, June, July. Every case shown in the future archive arrived exactly as documented, same dates, same victims, same examinations. And I was always there, assisting, photographing, recreating images that already existed, that had existed for months before the cases arrived. In August, I reviewed the next future file, August 23rd, 2024. Female victim, approximately 29 years old, visible bruising on neck, suspected strangulation. The photos showed me performing the external examination. Alone, no pathologist visible, just me documenting, measuring, photographing, but I was not qualified to perform examinations independently. I was an assistant. I supported pathologists. I did not conduct procedures alone. The photos had to be wrong, showing impossible scenarios, future documentation that would not match reality. August 23rd arrived. Female victim, 29 years old, strangulation. Arrived at 3 p.m. Dr. Ramirez was scheduled to perform the examination, but at 2:45 he called, emergency, family crisis, could not come in, asked if Dr. Chen was available. Dr. Chen was in court, testifying. No one else was available. The supervisor called me, asked if I could do the preliminary examination, external only, photographs, measurements, documentation. Dr. Ramirez would complete the internal examination the next morning. I agreed. I had assisted hundreds of times. I knew the procedures. I could handle external documentation. I performed the examination alone, photographed the body, documented the bruising, measured the trauma, professional work, thorough documentation. I uploaded the photos that evening, then I compared them to the future archive. Perfect match, every angle, every measurement, every moment. The future photos had shown me working alone, and reality had provided exactly the circumstances needed to make that happen. I checked the remaining future files. 42 cases still ahead, dated through November. I appear in all of them. Different roles, different positions, different scenarios. The documentation already exists. The future is already photographed, and I am following it. Exactly. Every case, every moment, every action, because the photos are never wrong. They show what will happen, and I cannot change it because it has already been documented 6 months ago by a system that knows the future and uses me to create it over and over, exactly as photographed. Something was watching from the drawers, and now it is telling us the room is full. My name is Thomas Grant, and I have worked as a night supervisor at the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office in Chicago, Illinois, for 14 years. I oversee overnight operations, coordinate body intake, manage storage capacity, and ensure all procedures follow protocol during night shifts. The facility has capacity for 120 bodies in refrigerated storage. 30 units, 4 drawers each. We rarely reach capacity. Most nights we have 60 to 80 bodies in storage. Adequate space, manageable volume, but 3 times each year we reach maximum capacity. Every drawer filled, no vacant spaces. And that is when the knocking starts. The first time I heard it was January 17, 2022. Severe cold snap. Homeless deaths, elderly victims, residential fires, accident surge. We processed 43 bodies in 2 days. By midnight on the 17th, we had 120 bodies in storage, every drawer occupied, full capacity. I was completing intake paperwork when I heard it. 3 knocks, distinct, metallic, coming from the refrigeration room. I stopped, listened. 5 seconds of silence, then 3 more knocks, same rhythm, same volume, same source. I walked to the refrigeration room, opened the door. Cold air rushed out. The units hummed steadily. Everything appeared normal. I listened. Nothing. Silence except for the cooling mechanisms. I was about to leave when I heard it again. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks, coming from Unit 7. I approached the unit. 4 drawers, all occupied, all sealed. The knocking came again. 3 sharp sounds, metal on metal, from inside one of the drawers. I pressed my ear to the unit, listened. 3 knocks, 5-second pause, 3 knocks, repeating, consistent, deliberate. I pulled open the first drawer. Male victim, 56 years old, hypothermia, deceased for 18 hours, no movement, no disturbance. I closed the drawer, opened the second. Female victim, 63 years old, house fire, deceased for 11 hours, no movement. I checked the third drawer, male victim, 41 years old, overdose, no movement. I opened the fourth, female victim, 72 years old, natural causes, no movement. But the knocking continued. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks coming from the unit, from inside. Even with all drawers open and confirmed empty of anything unusual, the sound persisted. I closed all drawers, left the room, filed an incident report, suggested maintenance inspection, possible mechanical issue, expanding metal, temperature fluctuation, anything rational. The next morning, maintenance inspected Unit 7, found nothing. No loose components, no structural issues, no explanation for the sound. The knocking stopped when we released 2 bodies that morning, 118 in storage, 2 vacant spaces, silence resumed, normal operations. I dismissed the incident as mechanical anomaly, stress-related auditory phenomenon, nothing supernatural, just an old building making noise. Then it happened again. March 9th, 2022. Multiple homicides, gang violence, 6 bodies in one night. We reached capacity by 4 a.m. 120 bodies. Every drawer gets filled. Within 10 minutes, the knocking started. 3 knocks, pause. 3 knocks from the refrigeration room, from the units, multiple sources, different drawers, same pattern. I entered the room. The sound was everywhere. Unit 3, Unit 7, Unit 12, Unit 20, multiple locations, all knocking. 3 knocks each, 5-second pauses, synchronized, as if coordinated, as if communicating. I documented it, recorded audio on my phone. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks, pause, repeating, rhythmic, precise. I showed my supervisor the next morning. He listened to the recording, suggested we consult the building engineers, get a structural assessment, but before we could, I researched the pattern myself. 3 knocks, 5-second pause, 3 knocks. I knew that rhythm. I had learned Morse code in the military. The pattern matched. 3 short sounds. Pause. 3 short sounds. Morse code letter S. 3 long sounds is O. 3 short is S. But this was neither. This was 3 distinct knocks, evenly spaced, not short, not long, standard duration. I checked Morse code references, looked for pattern matches, found it. 3 knocks, pause, repeated. It is not a letter. It is a signal, tactical communication, emergency code, military and maritime use. The pattern means occupied. Space is full, no vacancy. Position is filled. The drawers were telling us they were occupied. All of them, every space, full capacity. I showed my findings to my supervisor. He was skeptical, suggested coincidence, random mechanical sounds interpreted as patterns, human tendency to find meaning in noise. But he could not explain why the knocking only occurred at full capacity, why it stopped when we had vacant spaces, why the pattern was so precise, so consistent, so deliberate. Over the next year, we reached capacity 7 more times. Each time, the knocking started, always the same pattern. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks, always from multiple units, always synchronized, always at full capacity. In November, I began tracking the specific drawers, documenting which units produced the sound, looking for patterns, common factors. I found none. The knocking came from different units each time. No single drawer, no specific location, random distribution, but always the same signal: occupied, full, no vacancy. Then something changed. December 31st, 2023. New Year's Eve. Multiple traffic fatalities. Holiday overdoses. Violence. We reached capacity by 2 a.m. 120 bodies. Every drawer filled. The knocking started immediately. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Multiple units. Standard pattern. But then it changed. After 20 minutes of the occupation signal, the pattern shifted. 4 knocks. Pause. 4 knocks. Longer pause. 5 knocks. Pause. Back to 3 knocks. The pattern was evolving, becoming more complex, communicating more than just occupied. I recorded it, listened carefully. The new pattern had structure. 4 knocks, 5-second pause, 4 knocks, 10-second pause, 5 knocks, 5-second pause, 3 knocks. Repeating cycle. I transcribed it, analyzed it. The pattern had meaning. 4 knocks, 4 knocks, 5 knocks, 3 knocks. It was counting, not Morse code, not signals, counting. 4, 4, 5, 3. The numbers meant something, but what? I checked the dates. December 31, 2023. The numbers: 4, 4, 5, 3. I rearranged them. 4, 5, 3, 4. No significance. 4, 4, 5, 3. Nothing. Then I tried different interpretation. 4 drawer units. 4 bodies per unit. 5 units knocking. 3 deaths unprocessed at hospital. The count matched. 4 bodies per drawer. 4 drawers per unit. 5 units actively containing victims from the night's incidents. 3 more bodies incoming. Expected arrival within hours. The knocking was counting, documenting, tracking, knowing what was coming. The 3 bodies arrived at 4:15 a.m. Multiple vehicle accident. Fatalities just confirmed. We processed them. Reached 123 bodies. Over capacity. 3 bodies in temporary holding. And the knocking changed again. 6 knocks. Pause. 6 knocks. Pause. Decreasing to 3 knocks. Pause. The pattern was adjusting, updating, responding to new information, new capacity, new occupancy. The drawers were not just signaling occupation. They were counting, tracking, monitoring, knowing exactly how many bodies we had, exactly what was coming, exactly when we exceeded capacity. I documented everything, showed management, provided audio recordings, detailed logs, timeline analysis. They investigated, brought engineers, acoustics specialists, structural analysts. They found nothing. No mechanical explanation, no environmental cause, no rational source for the knocking, but they could not deny it was happening, could not dismiss the pattern, could not ignore the precision. The knocking continues. Every time we reach capacity, every time all drawers are filled, the pattern starts. 3 knocks, occupied. Then it counts, updates, tracks, tells us exactly what is in the room, what is coming, what is waiting. And now, sometimes, the pattern changes to something else. 7 knocks. Pause. 7 knocks. We have not decoded that one yet, but I think it is counting something else. Not bodies, not drawers, something else that is in the room with them, something that is also occupied, also present, also waiting. And I do not think it is knocking to signal occupation. I think it is knocking to warn us that something else is in there, taking up space, filling the drawers, occupying the room with them. If you ever work nights here, don't trust the reflections. They show staff that never clocked in. My name is Jennifer Wade, and I have worked as a night shift coordinator at the Fulton County Medical Examiner in Atlanta, Georgia, for 8 years. I manage overnight staffing, coordinate examination schedules, maintain security protocols, and ensure all personnel are properly documented and authorized. Night shift typically runs with minimal staff: one pathologist, two assistants, one security guard, one coordinator, 5 people total. Everyone signs in, everyone wears ID badges, everyone is accounted for, except the ones in the reflections. The first report came from Dr. Lawson, March 4th, 2023. He was performing a late-night autopsy. Alone in examination room 1, standard procedure. He was documenting findings when he glanced at the observation window, saw someone standing behind him, reflected in the glass, scrubbed in, wearing surgical gown and mask, observing the procedure. He turned around. No one there. Room empty. Door closed. He checked the hallway. No one. He returned to work, glanced at the window again. The figure was still there, in the reflection, standing exactly where it would need to be to cast that reflection. But the physical space was empty. Dr. Lawson completed the examination quickly, reported the incident to me, said he felt watched, observed, but confirmed he was alone. I reviewed security footage, checked badge access logs. Only Dr. Lawson had entered examination room 1 that night. No other staff, no unauthorized persons. He was alone, but he saw someone in the reflection. I dismissed it as exhaustion, night shift fatigue, visual artifact from stress. But 2 weeks later, it happened again. Different staff member, same phenomenon. Reflection of additional personnel, no physical presence. Sarah Chen, one of our autopsy assistants, was preparing a body in the processing room. She saw movement in the stainless steel cabinet doors. Reflections of people moving behind her. 3 figures, all scrubbed in, all wearing proper PPE, all observing her work. She turned, no one there. She checked the hallway, empty. Returned to her station, the reflections remained. 3 figures, watching, taking notes, moving as if consulting with each other. She photographed the reflection with her phone. The image captured them. 3 distinct figures, clear reflections, in the stainless steel, professional appearance, proper positioning, but no physical bodies in the room. She showed me the photograph. I examined it carefully, enhanced the image. The figures were detailed, not blur, not shadow, clear reflections, complete with ID badges, but the badge text was reversed, unreadable, as if they were real people reflected properly, except they did not exist in the physical space. I checked security footage from that time. Sarah was alone in the processing room. No other persons entered, but the photograph showed 3 additional people, only visible in reflection. Over 6 months, we collected 14 reports, different staff members, different rooms, different times, but consistent details. Additional personnel visible only in reflections. Mirrors, glass, polished metal surfaces, stainless steel equipment, Observation windows. Anywhere reflective showed them, but direct observation showed nothing. They appeared to be working, observing procedures, taking notes, consulting documentation, moving with purpose, following proper protocol, wearing correct PPE, acting exactly like real staff. But they never entered through doors, never signed in, never appeared on security cameras directly, only in reflections. In September, I decided to document them systematically, instructed all night staff to photograph any reflection anomalies, collect evidence, build documentation. Over 2 months, we collected 43 photographs. All showed additional personnel in reflections, all taken during night shifts, all confirmed by security footage, to show staff alone in physical space. I analyzed the photographs, looking for patterns. The reflection figures appeared in groups, usually 2 to 4 individuals, always properly dressed, always positioned as if observing. In 16 photographs, the reflection figures appeared to be taking notes, writing on clipboards, documenting procedures, as if conducting their own examination of our examinations. Then I noticed something in the photographs. The ID badges on the reflection figures. I enhanced the images, used software to reverse the text, make it readable. The badges showed names, real names, full names, proper format. But when I searched our employee database, none of the names matched current staff. None matched recent hires. None matched any personnel in our system. I checked archived records, historical employment files, going back years, found matches. 7 names from the reflection badges matched former employees. All deceased. 3 died in accidents, 2 from natural causes, 2 from illness, all between 2006 and 2014. They had all worked night shifts, all in this facility, all performing the same roles the reflections showed them doing now. I reported this to facility management, showed them the evidence, the photographs, the badge identifications, the deceased employee matches. They investigated, consulted security, reviewed systems, found no breaches, no hoaxes, no explanations. The photographs were authentic, the reflections were real, but the people they showed were dead. In November, during a busy night, I was walking through the corridor past examination room 2. I glanced through the observation window, saw Dr. Patel performing an autopsy, saw 3 other figures in the room with her, all standing at observation positions, all taking notes. I opened the door, entered the room. Dr. Patel was alone. I looked at the observation window from inside the room, saw my own reflection, saw Dr. Patel's reflection, and saw the 3 other figures, still there, still observing, but the physical space contained only 2 people, Dr. Patel and me. One of the reflection figures turned, looked directly at my reflection, made an eye contact, held my gaze, then returned to taking notes, as if acknowledging my presence, confirming they saw me, but they remained in the reflection, never appearing in physical space. Dr. Patel noticed my expression, asked what was wrong. I pointed to the window, asked if she saw anything unusual in the reflection. She looked, said no, just us, 2 people. I looked again. The 3 figures were gone. Only our reflections remained, But when I checked the security camera footage later, the observation window showed the three figures, clear, visible, documented. They remained even after I could no longer see them. They were always there, just not always visible to everyone. I researched the phenomenon, consulted paranormal investigators, psychologists, physicists. No one had explanations. Reflections require physical objects, light reflecting off surfaces, basic optics. But these reflections showed objects that were not present, people who were not there, former employees who were deceased. The reflections continue. Every night, different locations, different staff reporting them. Sometimes visible to multiple people, sometimes only to one observer, but always documented, always photographed, always consistent. Additional personnel, observing our work, taking notes, following procedures, as if still employed, still working night shifts, still performing their duties. Last week, I was reviewing security footage from Examination Room 3. Dr. Martinez was working alone. Late examination. Complex case. The footage showed him working. Clear documentation. Standard procedure. But in the reflection on the stainless steel equipment cabinet, there were 6 figures, 6 additional personnel, all observing, all positioned around the examination table, all watching Dr. Martinez work. I enhanced the image, checked the badge identifications. All 6 matched deceased former employees. All had worked night shifts. All had performed autopsies in that same room. Years ago, before they died. But there they were, still present, still working, still observing, teaching the living through their reflections. I printed the image, filed it with the others. We have 117 photographs now, documenting the shadow staff, the reflection personnel, the deceased employees who never left, who continue working, who observe every examination, who take notes on every procedure, who maintain their presence through any reflective surface. And sometimes, when I work late, I see them too. In the mirrors, the windows, the polished metal, a whole second shift of staff, working alongside us, watching, learning, teaching, never clocking out, never going home, just working, forever, in the reflections.